Mm-hmm. 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 Come on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is PZ Music.
Hello, and welcome to Backdoor Bills Talk. My name is Jason Malloy, but at J Don't Fade on Twitter. Following how do we characterize this? Exciting. Exciting really isn't the word, right? Because I think we all probably thought that we were going to come out with a win. Now, did I think it'd be a challenging contest? Yes, to some extent, of course. That being said, I wouldn't call it exciting. It was more maybe riveting. That's kind of like a synonym for exciting. I'd say challenging, emotionally challenging, mentally challenging, and to an extent, which I'll explain later, physically challenging. And let's just start at the beginning, right? So, Bills lose in OT 33-30 to the Minnesota Vikings yesterday. This is Monday. I'm recording this. Not recording it at all. It's live. This is Monday. And I don't feel it's kind of weird. Like you don't feel terrible. You don't feel as bad as you felt after the Jets game. Now I was in New Jersey for the Jets game at MetLife Stadium last week, and that felt pretty terrible. And probably part of that is the on top of the amount of money that was spent, um, travel time to get there, 6 hours there, 6 hours back, sleeping on a couch, not a bed, on my own bed, of course. That was a painful one. And the way they lost, it just seemed like the offense was pretty inept. Didn't do anything in the second half. First half was kind of like, offense did some things, but it wasn't what you want to see. It was a lot of old style Bills, old style Josh Allen, a lot of running touchdowns, a couple running touchdowns in the first half last week against the Jets, and not much going on in the second half. Scott says, painful. There's the words. That that would describe it. That's definitely one way to describe it for sure. I agree there, Scott. But yeah, yesterday, the first half, the offense was clicking a little bit. I mean, there were still some things you want to see cleaned up, things you want to see better, but they were moving, right? I mean, they put up a ton of points, maybe not a ton, but a good amount of points. We had a healthy lead at halftime. We're going into halftime. We kind of averted a crisis there at going into halftime with having them double up and get points on the way back. And I don't know. But yeah, first half, for all intensive purposes, was fine, so to say. It was enough that you'd think if they continue this or even half of this into the second half, they're going to get out of here with a win. Don't know if it's going to be by 3. Don't know if it's going to be by 17, but they're going to get the W. And at this point, with Howard, kind of things have been, we beat the Packers a couple weeks ago, but things were a little rough. There was some concern that was planted there. There was a seed planted there that had some concern. And then last week, of course, with the loss of the Jets, it all kind of came full circle. And not even really, but it was more, you're really starting on edge of your seat, like, should we worry? And then this week, things have come full circle. We are now in concerned mode. I wouldn't say panic mode, but definitely in strongly concerned mode. And I'll wrap up the game before I give my takes of how I think we're going to maybe try and get out of this, because we are what we are at this point. The trade deadline is over. There is no more upgrading the roster unless you're pulling from another team's practice squad, which is most likely not going to be an impact player off the bat, or trying to change the plan. And I think at this point that's probably all we really can do. Like I said, I mean, you are what you are on offense, on defense at this point. Now, yes, you will get players back due to some injuries that had happened last year. Trey White will be back. I would have told you 2 weeks ago, so I don't know at this point. I'm hoping he's back next week. If not next week, then it's got to be by Lions game? Some people are saying after Thanksgiving. I don't know at this point. You're kind of used up at a roster spot that at this point it might have just made sense to keep him on IR and wait until the 11th hour to get him off, of course. But it's kind of what they did anyways, right? But the second round of IR get backs rather than the third round of IR get backs, it's confusing. But either way, Trey White's not on the field right now, and I think we felt that yesterday. Even if we're getting, and if you watch the cornerbacks yesterday, it's another point of concern I have for the game. If you watch the cornerbacks yesterday, now yes, they weren't. Justin Jefferson wasn't flying down the field. He wasn't wide open with no one within 10 yards of him. He wasn't really 3/4 of the plays. He was not open. The other fourth he was open, but open enough where you could any quarterback, average quarterback, could at least squeeze the ball in there. And wide receiver like Justin Jefferson who is at this point, I'm going to say Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the league. Tyreek Hill, I don't put in that just because Justin Jefferson has everything. And going into the draft, if you remember correctly, a lot of people were saying, you know what? Yes, he's going to be a very good receiver, but I don't think that he's going to be able to do much outside of the slot. That being said, he's obviously doing things outside of the slot. He's doing things on the boundaries. I would say most of his catches yesterday, if not all of them, were on the boundaries, or from a boundary wide out stance rather than a starting point of in the slot. I don't think a lot of his draft pre-scouting report does line up with what he is now, but there's so much more that they missed. Where I watched him yesterday, I've watched the catches he's made throughout his career. The numbers he's on pace for, if he stays healthy in his career, he's going to pretty much obliterate most wide receiver records. He is the best wide receiver in the league right now. Now, that being said, if Stephon Diggs helps win a Super Bowl, does the trade even out? Of course it does. But you've got to look at it, the facts here, okay? I know that we love Stephon Diggs. I love Stephon Diggs. I think he's a top 3, maybe top 2 wide receiver in the league with Tyreek Hill. Justin Jefferson, I said, was first. Tyreek Hill probably at second as of right now. That flip-flops back and forth between him and Diggs. I'll throw Diggs in there for now in the second spot, and then Tyreek third, of course. Just don't think he has quite the ball skills to be in that conversation. He does a lot of things well, but he uses speed a lot. If you cut that speed down even by 15-20%, he's not anywhere near the wide receiver he is right now, of course. But that being said, Justin Jefferson and Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson is immensely cheaper. He is younger. He's got less wear on him. It kind of rolls into the younger part. And I think he's got slightly better hands. They're both very, very, very good. Maybe even top 2 in the league, those two, as they are overall, I would say. But Justin Jefferson made a catch yesterday that I've never seen. I don't, to be honest, I was celebrating in the state of my season tickets because I had thought that he actually didn't catch it. He did. And my first thing I said, so I was at the stadium. I was sitting in my seats as usual, decent seats, right, in the 200s-ish, on like the end zone-ish, kind of by the clubs-ish. I had 2 Vikings fans next to me. I had 2 Bills fans in front of me and 2 Bills fans to the left of me. You're right, my left. And the Vikings fans were pretty cool. They were pretty chill. They thought they were going to lose and going to halftime, like, well, they could do this, this, and that. And everything I was saying to them, like, oh, they're kind of a second half team, the Vikings, right? And just kind of talking about because the Bills were winning. I wasn't worried about anything, no reason to, troll or shit talk, anything like that. And actively watching this comeback. And I watched the catch, right, that Justin Jefferson made on 4th and 18 that never should have been caught. And my first thought was, after seeing the replay, did we learn nothing from Arizona? Did Cam Lewis learn nothing from Arizona? And in saying that, I mean, or from any time that's ever been a catch and you're told to swat the ball down. Now I'm told, I heard on the post-game show on GR 550 with, I think it was Nate Gary, he was mentioning that, yes, Cam Lewis should have went for the swat, but he went for the pick. He went to make a play. Unacceptable. Don't care. In that situation, you deflect the ball, game over, we win. The game would have ended. We would have won the game. I'm fully comfortable in stating that. I bet good amount of cash on it. You don't go for the pick there, man. And they I hadn't heard the post game yet, but they said that Cam Lewis was pretty upset with himself in the post game. Reasonably so. I mean, that cost us the game. Now, you can look at a couple different situations that cost us the game in different ways. I think that one is probably right up there as the highest. And not even a hair behind it is Josh's red zone interception towards the end of the game. The one towards the end of the game, because there was a lot of red zone interceptions that Josh's been showing showing and throwing, right? Showing and throwing the last couple of weeks, unfortunately. Probably not a long-term issue, but we'll see what something's going on there. And I don't know if it's maybe shake-up needed with Dorsey and Allen or just changing the way they scheme things up. But third behind those two, so you got Cam Lewis first as reason we lost the game. Second, you got Josh's red zone interception. And third, a couple feet behind that, you've got Ken Dorsey deciding a quarterback sneak with I'm not going to call him hurt, a banged up quarterback, at least for what you're asking him to do in an offense that is not very good in short yardage, with Mitch Morse also dealing with issues and some injuries also on that line, just people roughed up. You need them to, you're at like the inch yard line and you need them to push for. So Ken Dorsey, let's talk about the plays. Defense makes it an outrageous stand. At this point, I had tried to walk out of the game and walk back into the game 2 times. When we made that stop, I was with my wife at the game, right? And we made that stop, and I ran. We were in the tunnel. I ran out of the tunnel as I saw that play, jumped up, high-fived the pavement. That didn't feel good for the hand. And I said, we won. We fucking won the game. Excuse my language. And I then saw, I said, I told her, I said, honey, we got to go back, though. We got to go back because there could be a safety here. I was thinking safety, right? Not what actually happened, of course. Who knew it could be worse, right? It wasn't a safety. So they line up, and rather than, and this is, it was the first thing I said after I saw this play go down, this quarterback sneak attempt. Why is Josh Allen not out of shotgun with an empty back set? And why is there not 5 wide at this point where you are throwing a screen pass that's not in the end zone, right? Because we don't want to have the backwards pass and the fumble and blah, blah, blah. That actually happened in this game to the Vikings, of course. It was a backwards pass from Kirk Cousins to Dalvin Cook. They lost 8 yards, and I'm sure they probably got the 3rd and long because everybody gets 3rd and long and 4th and longs on us, right? That's just what we do because we immediately go from aggressive defense to bend but don't break. Anything over 3rd and 6, bend but don't break. Give up the 5 yards, hope you don't give up the 1. It's a stupid plan. It's a dumb plan, and it needs to be changed if we want to have any aspirations of winning the Super Bowl or even a home playoff game. Never mind the Super Bowl at this point. So I watched the play. Josh Allen's not out of snap gun. He's not out of shotgun. And he tries to sneak up the middle. He fumbles the ball. Touchdown. Recovered. And, what I feared and what pulled me and my wife out of the tunnel to go back to our seats to watch, the safety, actually ended up being a touchdown for the other team. So, yeah. And you know what the saddest thing was? And it's sad, but it's also like, you got a long way to go, pal. This is going to happen a lot. I was standing there in the tunnel with a couple of other people that were all ready to leave the game as well, but they had to see Minnesota. I had to see Minnesota score that touchdown, that last touchdown on the inch-yard line. They made like 5 attempts at it seemed like. And there's this kid, maybe he couldn't have been more than like 9 or 10. He's wearing a Josh Allen jersey, and this kid was bawling in tears. Bawling. As he thought we were losing this game. Like, I mean, this wasn't like a little crying, like, oh, yeah, this kid was upset, man. And it was actually weird. And I gotta shout out the Vikings fans for this, because you know what? They were a very pleasant fan base to deal with at the game. They were not rude, they were not trolling, they didn't say anything. I didn't hear one of them really. I'm sure they did. I'm sure there were some that were belligerent or whatever, but none of them were shit talking. And this Vikings fan, we went to this kid, he's like, it's all right, kid. They could still win this. They can still do this. And like, this is a Vikings fan comforting a Bills kid. You know what I mean? Grown man. And the dad for the Bills kid is there like, oh, come on, kid, don't cry. And he's like, they can still win this. They can still do this. They can do that. It's all right. They're going to win the Super Bowl this year. Like, he's just trying to cheer this kid up. Like, he felt so bad. Like, this is a good fan base. Like, it's a decent fan base. I have nothing bad to say about them. They troll Diggs and they, talk shit on Twitter, but that's Twitter. I mean, in real life, they were decent people to deal with, and there was a lot of them in the stadium. I made a tweet actually, or I put out a tweet, not made a tweet. What am I, 70? I put out a tweet. I tweeted earlier in the day, right around kickoff by the anthem time, because I had heard like this, this clapping, and I didn't know what it was, and it was the Vikings fans doing this, the skull chant thing. And there was a lot of Vikings fans. I tweeted that I was ashamed that so many Bills season ticket holders had sold, or season ticket holders, whatever, had not bought the tickets or sold the tickets, and there was a lot of big, heavy, visiting fan presence. I only expect that to pick up when the Jets come to town, because I'm telling you, they're going to flood this stadium. If they somehow find a way to win a couple games between now and then, they're going to flood this stadium, and it's gonna be miserable because that chant is stuck in my head. Jets, Jets. Oh God, I want to vomit. Mafia Sports Report says worst trolling fan base in the NFL. I don't agree with that. I think he might just be a little sour because there was a Vikings fan trolling him in the post game yesterday. Completely owned him. Actually, it was quite embarrassing for our friend Tommy with Mafia Sports Report in the post game. I forget what was his name. Something the Destroyer or something, or the Impaler, Dalen the Impaler. Some stupid name from some stupid account, but either way, irrelevant. We are still a better team than the Vikings. We're not playing like it though. I can tell you that. He's not sour. They're the worst. Sounds pretty sour to me. But yeah. So moving forward, we get the ball back, right? There's like 40 seconds left. They score a touchdown. We're down 3. Josh Allen decides, I'm going to put this team in my back, even though we were really only in the position, probably partly because of him and Ken Dorsey. But I'm going to put this team in my back. And yeah, he did. I mean, he was running down the field, didn't care about health at that point. Actually, you know what? I think there was one point where I'm like, he might have hurdled that guy instead of taking that, like trying to kind of cover into the hit, because he was trying to save the shoulder. I don't know if he was in pain, but he did say after the postgame, like, I think Josh Allen is one of those guys that he said in the postgame, like, nope, didn't play a role at all. Injury didn't play any role at all. Didn't hurt at all. I think part of that was him being like, yep, I'm not taking any cop-outs here. This is all my fault. This all falls on my shoulder. He wants to feel that like pain and that misery and use it as a driving force to get better, which is what leaders do in the world. They take the responsibility, they take the pain, and they try and use it as motivation. They use a negative and try and turn it into a positive. And that seemed like what Josh was doing there, which I respect. I felt as soon as he said that, that's what I thought. Mafia Sports Report says Jason clearly doesn't watch my podcast. Me and the rest of the world there, Tommy. So I make myself laugh sometimes here. Jesus. No. Tommy's got a great show. I watched it yesterday. It was entertaining actually, because he's got kind of a yin and yang thing going on with him and another host, Mikey, and it's good stuff. Tommy's kind of more the obviously I would assume you'd know Tommy's show if you're watching mine, because we're on the same network, Tommy's network, and he's got a good thing going on there. He's kind of more the positive outlook guy, even if it's kind of like a negative thing, I'll try and it's going to be positive in some way. And Mikey's kind of more similar to me, right? Like, I'm trying to more of like a realist type of guy. Not that Tommy's not realistic, but realist in the sense that like I really follow the numbers and the stats and try not let my emotions come into it. And I think part of that comes because if you guys know me and you know my takes, I'm a big betting guy. And at the end of the day, emotions can't enter betting. You've got to bet with your head and with your mind and with the numbers, and not with your emotions, which I've made the mistake of doing a couple times, and it's cost me. So that's kind of where that comes from. If I didn't bet so much, I'd probably be the same way, it's a good thing and a bad thing, I'll be honest with you. So, but either way, back into Josh Allen. Josh Allen's running. We get to this play where I'm like, all right, we're either going to screw kicking the field goal. We want the touchdown. We're going for even it's 4th down here. I'm not taking a tie. I don't want to ever see a tie in a column. Ties are stupid in the first place. You should play that the game's over. But seeing the ties would drive me nuts. So I'm like, we're going to go for the win here. I don't care if we're at the 20 and it's 3rd and 10. And I'm like, I was even thinking in my head, I'm like, damn, we're at the 20. We can get 10 more yards. We can get another first down here. We got 8 plays to do this here to get to 20 yards, even with how terrible our red zone efficiency is, which after yesterday, I've got to – it was already in the bottom third of the league. It's got to be nearing bottom 5 in the league. The red zone efficiency is god awful at this point, and it's got to get better if we're going to get better and we're going to win. So Josh Allen snaps the ball. We're all smiles, and then you just hear a big, oh. And you look, and Patrick Peterson – I think Patrick Peterson was surprised he caught the interception and that it was thrown to him, and that he was Josh Allen's primary receiver on that pass, because Josh Allen didn't take his eyes off him. Just like seemingly every other interception the last 3 weeks he doesn't take his eyes off of the player or the receiver that he's actually going to, in his uniform, in Josh Allen's matching uniform. And the cornerbacks in the NFL aren't stupid, man. They don't suck. They're decent. You could be the worst cornerback on the worst team, and you're still better than most people in the rest of the entire world at that position. And they jumped there. I don't even want to say jumped the route. He was just standing in zone coverage. It didn't even look like man to me with Patrick. He was just kind of roaming around, and he caught the ball and he's like, wait, do I need it? What? And then he just jumped. He's like, I had the ball, and he went down early, and that was the game. And that was the game. So we're 6-3. Vikings 8-1. Tip of the hat to the Vikings. That was a hard-fought game. They really worked their ass off in the second half, and we really didn't. So, from the offset or from the outside, it looks like the issues that we're having on offense are pretty definable, pretty stateable, pretty tangible. Not running the ball enough in the second half. Not developing a running game in general. Not winning the battle in the trenches, as Sean McDermott would say. The battle's won at the line of scrimmage. It's won and lost there. And Josh, it's crazy. You wouldn't think at this point, or really probably ever in the next 10 years, you'd be saying Josh Allen's the problem. Well, he's the solution and he's the problem, because maybe we don't have those points. Maybe we're not even getting to overtime. Maybe we're getting our asses kicked in the second half, if not for Josh Allen. But he also ended the game. He was the last Bills player to touch the ball, So we need Odell Beckham. And I've arrived at that point. I don't want to – Gabe Davis had a solid game yesterday, but there's certain things that he can't do. His draft profile, speaking of Justin Jefferson's earlier, right? Gabe Davis's draft profile seems to kind of line up with exactly where I think they thought he'd be. And now maybe is he having more success because the offense – yes, he is. He's having more success than I'm sure they thought he would in the 4th, 5th round, wide receiver from a smaller Division I school, but a smaller Division I school. They called him a jump ball guy. They said he doesn't really fine develop route tree, and they didn't think he ever really would. But he's got decent hands, and he's got the ability to jump up and get the ball on high point balls. And he's a go guy. He's a go route guy. Just get down there somewhere. I'll chuck it up there. If I can get in your vicinity, I think you're going to come down with it half the time. And to this point, that's kind of what he looks like. And yes, he made a nice catch. Yes, he's made some really nice toe tap catches in the past. But he's not getting separation, guys. Like, he's not beating anybody with his feet. Not even at league average rate. I see him as a slightly, not even slightly, I see him as a not as good Mike Evans. And it's not because he, somewhat kind of looks like him. It's because that's what he does. Like, he's the red zone threat. Like, he should be a red zone threat. He should be the guy that you chuck the ball up to and try and high point it. But he's not going to kill anybody with his speed. He's not going to kill anybody with his feet. And he's not a surgical route technician. I think we need to get a second wide receiver. And even if Odell Beckham is 80% of what he was, that's him. That's the 80% of Odell Beckham is better than 100% of Gabe Davis right now. And I love Gabe. I'm not hating him, and I love him. I do. And I think he's got a role in this offense for years to come as a third wide receiver, just not as a second. And I don't want to let the Bills – if you get Odell Beckham this year, which I don't know at this point that they're going to, because I think they would have already done it. I know he's injured. He's got to pass physical, but there's not even any talk that they're interested at this point. And to be honest with you, Odell Beckham is just seeing the losses. I know it's only 2 in a row, but he's seeing the losses pile up, and like he's seeing some of the turmoil we're going through and thinking like, maybe I want to be a Cowboy. But Cowboys lost yesterday too. But there's other teams that want him that are good. I mean, maybe he wants to go to the Chiefs and just be like, yeah, I'm going to ride this train, Juju Smith-Schuster just got a concussion. He'll probably be back in a week or two. But either way, they got Kadarius Toney, but they could use another. Who couldn't use another Odell Beckham? And I'm at this point, I'm thinking that. And the reason someone called me on Twitter for it, I wasn't saying we couldn't use another Odell Beckham. I was saying there wasn't enough targets for what the Bills want to do to add Odell Beckham at the beginning of the year. There was not enough targets for what their plan was, because our plan doesn't matter. If it was my plan, I'd say, sign Odell Beckham, weeks ago or whatever. But it's not. It's their plan. And realistically, there wasn't enough targets for what the Bills plan to do this year. They wanted to have Stephon Diggs as the first, Gabe Davis as a strong second, and clearly Isaiah McKenzie as a gadget role, but also the third wide receiver. And then they wanted to mix in Khalil Shakir. And I don't know what they wanted to do with Dawson Knox, because I really can't tell shit about what they're doing with him up to this point. I mean, he was involved yesterday, made some nice catches, had a solid game finally, and I don't know. I just think Count Dorsey's not scheming up enough plays for him. A lot of blocking from it. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Ken Dorsey at this point, to be completely honest with you. I'm not blaming him for the interceptions from Josh. Josh made those throws. Worst comes to worst, if Ken Dorsey draws up a bad play, that should not be an interception. It should be a thrown away ball. I get to the situation, but blah, blah, blah. Josh is a $150 million quarterback, more $200 million quarterback. He's got to decide what to do smartly with the ball and he's got to value the football more. I don't think he values it that much at this point. I think he's a lot of hero ball, and it seems like maybe that's what Dorsey wants, but it ain't working, pal. This is your first year as an OC, and this team should be performing a lot better in the second half on offense. And in the first half, to be honest with you, there should be more consistency. Maybe not more points, but more consistency in the first half. And the second half, there needs to be more of everything. You got to get the run game going. I'm getting really sick. And before we say anything, Devin Singletary, I'm not blaming for a fumble because it wasn't a fucking fumble. Excuse my language again. It wasn't a fumble. His elbow was down. Everybody saw the replay. Live time, I got a text from my father saying, like, nope. BS call, wasn't a fumble, and you can look, and they froze at the same time. His elbow is down, and the ball is still in place. It should have been done, but because they ruled it a fumble on the field, they couldn't overturn it, even though they had the evidence was right there, but they couldn't overturn it because you could tell the ball was moving. So that's why I don't like those. That's why I think if there's a point there, don't make a ruling at all. If it's questionable, don't make a ruling at all, and go to review. Let the play continue, but go to review. So that's my take on that. That's my soapbox on the Devin Singletary fumble. But I think they need to get Devin Singletary going. The dude has put up stats and numbers. I've been his biggest advocate for years now. Ever since we drafted him, all he's done is perform in every single way that we could ask him to. And they continue to try to replace him and throw Band-Aids on it. And they're throwing Band-Aids on a healthy piece of skin. There's no cut there. There's no scab. There's no scar. No open wound. Devin Singletary is fine. There's no open wound with him. He averages a well over 4 carry. I think he's done it throughout his entire career. On his whole entire career, it's over 4 carry. Most, I think every year is about 4 or over per carry too. Lowest might be like 4.0 or 4.1, 4.2-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood. But 3-4 yard runs gets you a first down. And usually he's good for that. You know what I mean? He's good for getting you 4 or 5 every carry. It seems like he's able to do that because he's shifting. He falls forward. And you just got to feed Devin Singletary, man. You want to mix James Cook in there, and maybe I'd like to see some 2-back sets. That'd be interesting. Singletary on one side, Cook on the other. You can get really interesting with that kind of stuff, you know, especially if they think Cook is a playmaker, or if Cook is the playmaker they think he is. But we'll see, I guess. That being said, they just got to be better all around, man. This is kind of like an event episode because, like, it's kind of crazy. And the funny thing is, I went to the Packers game, right? And I went to the Jets game last week, as I had mentioned to you, right? I went to this game this last week, right? Yeah, I got the Browns game next week. I have my tickets listed. I'm trying to sell them, honestly, because I need a break. But I've also got the tickets for the Lions game in Detroit Thanksgiving the week after. So we got to start. We better be coming to that Detroit game with 1 win. If we lose next week, we are then in panic mode. It's no more highly concerned mode. We flipped from that. Remember that switch I told you about earlier in the show, from highly concerned to panic mode. We will be going into panic mode at that point. Mafia Sports Report says the Bills played the same last season after the bye week. This is not Dorsey problem. It all starts. And I know I know Tommy's a pretty big advocate for Ken Dorsey, not Glenn Dorsey. Ken Dorsey, not the owner of the Chiefs, but Ken Dorsey. I just think he's very vanilla in a sense. Vanilla in a sense that, like, he's predictable. So I guess maybe vanilla is in the role because he is pretty aggressive, but he's very predictable with his running, especially. And it seems like they just completely abandoned the run in the second half, and that's on him. That's not on Josh. Yes, Josh can audible, but if Ken Dorsey is continually calling up passing plays and not mixing in a run, what quarterback that you know is not going to want to have the ball in his hands and throw the ball and make a play, especially a playmaker like Josh Allen? Why would he want to hand the ball off? You know, so Ken Dorsey has to come in those positions and scheme up runs. I mean, it's funny. We had team or fans in the stadium yesterday asking for, like, why are you not running the ball? Run the damn ball. It's working. And they just abandoned it. And real quick, what I want to touch on before we end the show, we're at about the 29-minute mark here. I know we got Sunday or Monday Night Football coming on, so I want to let you folks get there and set your lineups. If you haven't set your lineups, of course, you should have set it from last week. But if you're any tinkering changes you got to make, don't forget, we're getting really close to the fantasy playoffs. Things are going to get real exciting here. But the defense, our halfbacks, our cornerbacks don't look good enough. In any way, Cam Lewis at safety was like, other than that one play, okay, I guess that's fine. He's a backup, right? The chances are he's not going to be starting safety. I don't know. They may plan on doing it. They talk really highly of him, but we'll see. Damar Hamlin looks good. The thing with Damar Hamlin is I think he can be a starter on this team, the starter on this team for years to come, for a couple years to come at least, for the next couple of years, I guess I'll say. But he needs to have a strong pass defender alongside him. And I think with having Jordan Poyer, kind of someone who can kind of do everything, or even Micah Hyde, I like that because he needs to have someone that can kind of balance him out because he's very good against the run. He's very hard hitting, very good like tackling skills. I just need to see more pass defending from him, and I don't know if he has that ability, so we'll see. And then Tommy says the point I touched on. You do know Allen can audible out of a play. I don't think they trust the O-line to run block. Well, it's working early in games, so I don't know. I mean, Devin Singletary's still putting up good numbers. Like, so trust doesn't really play a role because, like, if they're getting good production out of Devin Singletary, then it just comes down to making the play call. And if they're not making that's the thing. I don't see it shouldn't be Josh Allen's responsibility to have to audible out of plays because his offensive coordinator is putting the team in a bad position by not running the ball. I mean, it just comes down to Ken Dorsey need to be running the ball more, run the ball. Josh can audible, but if that's the case, and we're just going to expect him to audible, we shouldn't be. That's what I'm coming down to. If you're a Super Bowl team, or if you're even a playoff team or a good team, or you're an NFL team, your quarterback should not be having to save you from bad decisions of your offensive coordinator regularly, like having to teach them to run the ball. That's the point. And then he says Dorsey's not throwing the interception. I mentioned that earlier. Tommy, I don't know if you were here, but Dorsey, yeah, he didn't throw the interception. But guess what? He schemed up routes that were all ending it. Why were there so many wide receivers in the end zone when you have 20 yards to go and you have plenty of time in overtime? Why are all the route concepts to get to the touchdown right there? Huh? That's something Dorsey puts together. I'm putting blame on Dorsey for not running the ball. Now the interceptions, yes, Josh still throws them, but it falls on Dorsey at the end of the day. Run the ball, man. This is becoming a growing narrative around the fan base. But he can fix it, right? So we got a game against the Browns. I think he's going to skip some more runs. He's going to want to get the run game going. If not for anything, if he truly wants to pass, right? He's going to want to get the run game going so that he can then pass the ball and open up more passing opportunities, right? For Allen to get right. So, and for this offense to get right as a whole in the second half. So let's end on this. I want to see the Bills get the run game going. I want to see this defense play better. I want to see what Trey White looks like when he comes back. Hopefully next week we're getting Trey White, Jordan Poyer, all the guys are coming back, and we're looking good. And hopefully Tremaine Edmonds is okay. I know he came out of the game yesterday, so that was a little scary, of course. Scary in the sense that our best linebacker was still, in my opinion, Matt Milano, but you don't want to lose your Mike linebacker, your middle linebacker. So that being said, go Bills. Next week's a new week, guys. That was Backdoor Bills Talk with my name at J. My name, not just me, my name. At J Don't Fade. Enjoy Monday Night Football. I'll give you my pick for Monday Night Football. Why not, right? So I'm going to take an underdog here. I'm not saying it's going to win, but I think it's in the cards where it could happen. I think Terry McLaurin could have a real big game today, guys. And in turn, Taylor Heinicke have a real big game. And I think this game comes down really close. I think the Commanders win by a field goal, win by 3. That's my pick. If you take them to win by 2, and if you take the Skins, if you take the Commanders by -2.5, or if you take them the money line, they're like plus 450. You take them -2.5, it's like plus 550, 560. Throw $10 on it, make $50, and you pay for your beers for the week, I guess, right? 2 30 packs. So that's what I got for you guys. That's Backdoor Bills Talk. Go Bills. We will see you next week after hopefully a Bills.